What's up, guys? So welcome to Mass Effect Talks again. I took a little break from Mass Effect videos. I needed a break. I did so many Mass Effect videos during the time that Mass Effect was going to be coming out. So I just needed a break. But I'm happy to come back and do these. A lot of you thought I stopped making them, but no, I was just taking a break. And I said that I was going to restart them in June, so here we are again. And today I'm still going to continue the races because I didn't finish them, and because they're pretty freaking interesting. Today I'm going to be talking about the Yogg and the Vorcha. And to be honest, I thought that these two races were going to be kind of boring. I was like, I'm not a big fan of any of these two races. I don't really like the Yogg. And the Vorcha is just like... But when I was doing the research, I was learning so many things about these two races that I was just like, these guys are pretty cool. Like, I really like their background, even their physiology. It's just pretty cool. So I'm going to talk about these two races together, because not only because they're so different, but also because they have some similarities. And especially one which was pretty interesting to me. In Mass Effect 3, these are the two of the races. I'm not sure if there was any other. I'm pretty sure these were the only two races that, out of the big races, out of like the races that are mentioned in Mass Effect. I'm not talking like freaking, you know, like monkeys and stuff like that. I mean like the races that actually, you know, have freaking cultures and stuff. These are the two races that weren't attacked by the Reapers. They were the ones that were left alone because they weren't spacefaring. So the Reapers left them alone because they're going to be there for the next cycle. So they wanted to, especially the Yogg, because the Yogg, they could be the next species to be reaped, or one of the next ones, because as primitive and animalistic as the Yogg seems, they're actually very, very smart. They actually put them on par with Salarians, which is which really, really caught my eye, because I was like, that's so contrary to, you know, to common belief, because usually you see a big monster thing, and you would never guess that it was smart. You'd think it would just act on instinct, and it was just a predator and that kind of thing. But the Yogg is extremely smart, so that's why the Reapers left them behind, especially the Yogg. Now, the Vorcha is something different, but the Yogg, they left them behind in hopes of them being the next species that will be reaped, because they were very close in finishing a spaceship, the Yogg. So they were heading in the right direction. First, I'm going to talk about the Yogg. They have an unrivaled perceptiveness and mental adaptability, even more so than the Salarians. Now, they are very intelligent, like the Salarians, but they're unrivaled when it comes to their perceptiveness. And by perceptiveness is, I was reading that they're very good at capturing every movement that something makes, because they have 4 eyes. And these 4 eyes they're more useful than even the Batarians' eyes, because they capture, not only do they capture every movement, but also they're very sensitive to light. So they could see things more enhanced than any other species. So they could read people and other species. They could read them very, very well. They're really good at reading body language. So that's why it says that they're unrivaled when it comes to perceptiveness. The Yogg species was discovered by the Citadel Council in 2125, which means that it was about 60 years before Mass Effect 1. But after they were discovered, they were They were forgotten for reasons that I'll discuss in a little bit. The Yogg is the ultimate predator. They come from the planet called Parnack, and they are the ultimate predator in Parnack. And everything about them makes them freaking intimidating as hell as a predator, because they're much taller than a Krogan. They've got this triangle mouth that's full of sharp teeth. Their skin is very rough, so it's almost like they have freaking armor on. They have these 4 eyes that could capture everything. It's really, really hard to hide from a Yogg if you're prey. They've got 3 fingers, but they have a thumb, which means they could grab things, and they've got talons. And they've got really powerful legs, and they stand upright. So they could run pretty fast, and they're pretty freaking strong, and yeah, they're deadly. So it says that their eyes, each pair of their eyes is designed to track and predict the movements of prey. So they say that since they're so good at reading body language and all this stuff, it's very hard, and in many cases impossible, to lie to a Yogg. They have horns on their heads, and they have facial markings. Their skin ranges from red to brown. And Javik does mention that the Yogg were smaller during his cycle, which was about 50,000 years ago. So the Yogg has evolved to be a larger predator. So when they were discovered by the council species, they landed on Parnack, and they found this species, the Yogg, and they approached the Yogg, and they tried to, to communicate with them, blah blah blah, what the council was best at. And the Yogg, their civilization wasn't primitive, but it wasn't to the point where you could call them spacefaring. Their technology was equivalent to that of the 20th century Earth. So it wasn't bad. It was pretty good, but they just weren't spacefaring. So the council came, and they did their little delegations and blah blah blah. Since the Yogg have this obsession with control, they saw that the way that the council was talking to them, since they were talking to them like a one-on-one thing, they were really offended. Like, they were like, these guys are supposed to be subordinates. So since the Yogg saw the attitudes of these ambassadors as them feeling like equals with the Yogg, they took it as a sign of contempt. They were almost offended, and they killed everybody. They killed the whole team because they didn't stand for that. They were like, oh hell no, these losers are coming here and they're talking to us like they're one of us. No. And the council completely just shut that whole area off. They were like, nobody go to Parnack, just stay away from it. They just stayed away from it because they found out that the Yogg were extremely aggressive, and they were poorly suited for the galactic community, since they pretty much saw themselves as being superior, and yeah, they didn't really fit. They wouldn't fit in very well. Now the DLC, the Shadow Broker DLC, I've never been a big fan of that DLC. Like, I was like, it was alright. I expected the Shadow Broker to be somebody else. Like, I didn't expect to see this monster there. I was like, what? But the cool thing about it, one of my favorite things about the Shadow Broker DLC was all the stuff that you find out on the Shadow Broker base. Like reading all the dossiers and stuff like that. And the one that just caught me off guard, where I was just like, oh my god, what did I just read? Or I had to reread it to really get what I was reading, was the dossier for the Shadow Broker. The really cool thing about that is that it starts off as one person, and then it ends as another person, and you're just like, at least that's how I was. I was like, wait a minute, what? So the Shadow Broker was somebody else. He's only been the Yogg Shadow Broker. He's only been in the position of Shadow Broker for 6 decades, I believe. Before him was somebody else, was another Shadow Broker. But what happened was the Shadow Broker, the original Shadow Broker, wanted to study a Yogg, a Yogg specimen. This is after the council had already, tried to civilize them, or at least, civilize them according to council rules or whatever. This was after so the Shadow Broker sends his agents to Parnac and to abduct pretty much a Yogg for study. A lot of the Yogg had to be killed until finally one of the Yogg was interested in leaving the planet. So after this Yogg left Parnac with the Shadow Broker's agents, the Shadow Broker was impressed with all of the capabilities that the Yogg had, especially when it came to intelligence, and he found how on par they were with the Salarians, but the Salarians lived less. So that was the only downfall about the Salarians that the Yogg didn't have, was the lifespan. So what the Shadow Broker did was he secretively replaced some of his operatives with the Yogg, because he was like, this guy's better, this guy's better at this stuff, to lead strike teams, to gather intelligence and neutralize threats. But since the Yogg naturally have so much problem with taking orders, because they have this obsession over control, they want to be in control, and they're so aggressive, the Shadow Broker started to have problems with this Yogg, because he was becoming insubordinate. He was attacking his own agents or operatives, the Shadow Broker's agents. So the Shadow Broker ordered him to be killed, Yogg. All of a sudden, this is all there. Like, it's I don't remember exactly how it was stated, but this is all explaining this stuff, and all of a sudden, it takes a different turn. Like, it starts all of a sudden, you realize that the Yogg killed the Shadow Broker and became the Shadow Broker. So that, and I was like, what? So, I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was so cool. I don't like the Yogg as the Shadow Broker, but I thought that background was so cool that they did that, because it was like the Shadow Broker wanted to kill this Yogg because he was causing problems. So that order that the original Shadow Broker had sent to kill this Yogg, the Yogg now replaces this Shadow Broker and takes that order off, and a lot of his agents, a lot of the Shadow Broker agents, never found out that this happened. They never realized that this Yogg killed the Shadow Broker, and because nobody would ever really see the Shadow Broker, so he just resumed like nothing, kind of like Liara did, where Liara just took his place. So it's kind of like this keeps on happening over and over when it comes to the Shadow Broker. I love that. That was my favorite part of the Shadow Broker DLC, was that whole story, how it just turned the tables on you. Like,